Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gina Marie Agdarian. I am the author of The Letters in the Old House, available on Amazon in paperback and Kindle. I will link to my book, to purchase my book, in the description below. So today is, of course, another episode of Book Talk. So today I am talking about the novel, The Tiffany Girls. And this novel was written by Shelley Noble. She's actually a fellow New Jersey author, as I learned when I read her blurb on the back cover. And I would give this book a solid 3.5 out of 5 stars. And I'll talk about what I really enjoyed about this book and what kind of fell flat for me a little bit. So this story, just to give a little bit of a synopsis, it mostly centers around this young woman, Emily. She's 17 years old and she's a French young woman, and she comes over to the United States, and this is back in 1899. So this is historical fiction. And Emily comes to the United States with the hope of working for Louis Comfort Tiffany, who was the founder and the pioneer of Tiffany glass. So the lamps and all of the beautiful pieces that we're all familiar with as classic Americana, that is the Tiffany. So it's not the Tiffany for Tiffany and Company. That gentleman's last name was also Tiffany. This is a completely different person altogether. So anyway, this young woman named Emily comes over from France. She is fleeing Paris because her father was an art forger, and she was kind of shunned by the art community in Paris. And she feels that she's going to get arrested, or she's going to get in some sort of trouble because of what her father had done and people's beliefs that she had helped her father in the art forgery world. So she leaves, she comes here to the United States, to Ellis Island, with the hopes of working for Louis Tiffany. And she does get hired, and he quickly learns how talented of an artist Emily is, with glass, with light, with color, and everything. She begins to really develop a love for stained glass, and obviously wants more and wants to be, a great artist, and really admires Mr. Tiffany. She lives in a boarding house with several other young women who also work at Tiffany. And one of those other young women, her name is Grace. And Grace is a little bit older than Emily, but she is at night doing political cartoons. And in the late 1800s, early 1900s, that was super taboo for women to be doing something like that. There was still women's work, and being in journalism or being in politics was certainly not part of that. So we learn about their lives, we learn about the intricacies of how the stained glass was created and the process, the creative process, the manual process, and really about Emily's and Grace's lives. The story kind of comes to a head when they all go over to Paris for the World's Fair to showcase Mr. Tiffany's pieces, and everything just kind of comes together at the end. So this was a great story in terms of historical fiction. The author, again, really did her research. She does give a little bit of information at the back in the author's note about some of the characters and who they were kind of modeled after. There was also a character, kind of in my opinion, a secondary character named Clara, who was older than the other women, and she was the one who kind of oversaw them, the manager of their division. And in this story, she creates the famous dragonfly lamp. So there's a lot of historical ties in this book. And if you are into art, if you're somebody who's really into art, loves art, interested in art, this is a great book for you because it goes into great detail. Sometimes a little too much detail, which was a bit of my gripe with it, was just a lot of art detail. I did also feel that this book could have easily been 100 pages shorter. It's about 400 pages, 401 pages to be exact, and it easily could have been 300 or less. A lot of the chapters I did feel were kind of redundant, where they walk to work and they're in New York City. So they walk to work in the morning and they work and they're working on this project and Mr. Tiffany has an outburst and then they go home and then it was very redundant in some chapters. And there was some I honestly, when I was reading it, I'm like, okay, and just kind of skipping through it a little bit, which I don't normally do when I read. So it did feel very redundant that way. Overall, though, I do think this is a book worth checking out if you're into historical fiction, specifically around the late 1800s, early 1900s. If you're somebody who's interested in women's push for equality, I do think that it had a really good central theme of that as well, without being super pushy or preachy. And the story was great behind it. But just be prepared that this is a bit of a longer book, which I honestly didn't realize when I picked it up from the library. I didn't look to see how long it was because it didn't seem that long this way, but this way it's long. So just something to consider and keep in mind. Again, The Tiffany Girls by fellow New Jersey author Shelley Noble. Let me know in the comments if you've read it, if you plan on reading it, what you liked, what you didn't like about it. And as always, happy reading.